we are live.
Hey guys, we are live this morning. I usually do my live chat on Fridays, but this week we're doing it on Thursday. We have a special guest in our studio. I've got Cecile, who's the mother from Just Another Button Company, and Rachel, who's the daughter from Just Another Button Company. And Rachel hand dyes the buttons that are the dyed buttons, and Cecile does the clay buttons. And so we're here today, and we were just gonna answer questions. You can ask questions about Just Another Button Company, about Fat Quarter Shop, or anything you want to ask us about ourselves. And so send us your questions on YouTube. We have this new feature called Super Chat, which is really awesome because when you ask your question, it'll like pop up super big. So we'll see it first. So just fire away the questions and we are ready to answer.
All right. First question is, what is Just Another Button Company?
We are a small business right in the middle of the Midwest. We are located in Troy, Illinois. Rachel lives just across the Mississippi River in Missouri, but actually it's an Illinois company. And it's not just me and Rachel. We're really proud of the fact that we've been around for almost 22 years, and some of our original employees are still with us. There are 11 of us, maybe 12, and all together we make the buttons.
And it's super cute place. I've been there, and so they have like a room of like all their hand dyed buttons, and it's super awesome. I've been there. My husband has been there. It's really awesome. So I told him I would go work for free for like a week.
And we said yes. Absolutely.
Because I love buttons.
Give me 1 second. Let me make sure we're good with Instagram. Are people aware we're doing this downstairs?
No.
Sure. Do you guys want to talk about the filming that we've been doing these past 2 days, like what people can expect?
Yeah, so we did some films. We did a film on how Cecile does the clay buttons and how she starts out with like a tube of clay and then you get these tiny buttons. So there's going to be a video on that. There's a video on how they're beautiful dyed buttons, how to do that and how she actually does that. We did a video on this little pin cushion. What else did we do? Oh, we talked about the new Just Another Button Company club that's going to be coming out. We did a video on the little pins, and then we're going to have a pin club.
The little lap quilt and sewing on buttons.
Oh yeah, how to sew on buttons. We did one on how to sew it on by hand, and then one how to sew it on by machine. And the one on machine is really awesome. I learned a lot because I don't ever do that.
And we did the one on the button boats.
Oh yeah, on Lacy Curl Designs has a button boat pattern, and so we did a video on like how to do that, and it's super cute.
Awesome. And how did you all meet?
How did we meet?
Oh yeah.
Well, when did we first meet you? I guess I think at festival.
Quilt Market or Quilt Festival, and then
Quilt Market, right? It was sample spray, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, you came up to the table because we had the little boxes with one set of each snack.
Oh, and then I bought them. Yeah,
and
that's right.
You bought them, yeah. And Rachel said, "Do you know who that was?" So,
yeah, I love buttons. So yeah, that's how we met. And then they emailed me like 2 years ago or a year ago.
It was a year ago.
When we went to St. Louis, and they said, would you like to tour Just About Another Button Company? And I was like, yes.
And a minute and a half.
Yeah, a minute and a half. I was like, yeah. And then Kevin went, who's my husband. I don't know if y'all know, but he went, and he was like, he sat there when she was doing the clay buttons, and I was like, okay, are you gonna get up? Like, he was like asking her a million questions. I was like, okay, I think he's more like impressed. I mean, I was impressed, but he just wouldn't stop asking questions. I was like, at some point you're gonna start annoying her.
Not at all, no.
But
no, we're happy to share what we know about the clay, what we've learned over the years, because every once in a while, very rarely, we teach a class on how to make the buttons, and when we get finished, invariably people say, I will never argue again about the price of a button because I'm so happy for you to make them for me.
It's such an art. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't have the patience, but like I think people sometimes, that's why we did the videos, so people would understand like what goes into dyeing a button, what goes into making a clay button. It's not just like straight from China. You know, it's not like it's not going to be the same price as something that's just like a plastic cheap button. So
Right.
there's like a value in it, and that's why I wanted to do the video, so y'all would all know.
Rachel, will you tell them about your idea for calling it small batch?
Oh, sure. We call our buttons small batch buttons because as a company who creates our own product, we have the ability to react to trends in the industry. And if we see a color come out that just everybody's crazy about, we don't have to wait 3 to 6 months to import a bunch of those buttons from China and then, you know, have years supply of that one color. We can go in the dye room that day and create a small batch of that color, and then it'll be in your hands in, you know, a week instead of months.
Right. And when
So-
Rachel says small batch, she might mean 10,000, but
Right.
compared to if I order something from overseas, they might have me order 100 gross or 1,000 gross even. So we can stock lots of different colors and lots of different shapes because we do small batches.
All right, we've got a question. Madame Beck is asking, when can we expect to see these button videos?
Oh, so Lily's behind the camera, so when she gets them done, but no, we're gonna do probably 2 of them within like 2 weeks, and the rest like in a month or so.
And we have to say hello to Madame Beck because I'm pretty sure that's my Aunt Carla. Hi, Aunt Carla.
So sweet. All right. Give me 1 second here. We're having trouble connecting to Instagram.
Okay.
So let's just keep this going. But we are on YouTube and Facebook. Got people watching from Las Vegas and Denver and Los Angeles. Do you guys want to talk about how you make your buttons? Maybe not in detail, but just like an idea.
Well, let's see, 2 different kinds of buttons. Rachel can tell you about the hand-dyed buttons, and I'll tell you a little bit about the handmade buttons. We make them from polymer clay, and that's petroleum-based clay, but there's a lot of advantages to using that as opposed to what people usually think about with clay, where you make it on a potter's wheel. This is a plastic material. It comes in bars about this big, and maybe 20 colors. It's made in Belgium, actually, and it's brought over. It's kind of crazy how they bring it. They ship it to California, and then my friend Howard in California ships it to me in Illinois, and we cut all the bars up into 24 pieces, and we mix. We have little recipe cards, and we mix so much of the blue and so much of the white and so much of the green together, and chop that all up in a food processor, and it comes out kind of looking like multicolored cottage cheese. Nothing very appetizing, but and then you mix the clay to get one solid color. You pull it and you squeeze it and you fold it over, sort of like making taffy, until the colors are uniform. And then you might need maybe 6 different colors to make a button, but that's all written on the recipe cards also. So then when you're all done, you have all these colors sitting around you. And we have to give a shout out to Holly, who mixes all that clay for us now. She's a whiz at math, so she can do a 96th or a fourth of a 96 is this much, and she knows just how to tweak the colors, because of course every time the clay comes it's a different color. Yeah, it's like a dye lot. It's pretty tricky, but so after we have the colors, then we start building. And if you want a thin sheet of clay, then you use this magical tool called a pasta machine, and you can buy it at Bed Bath & Beyond. You just roll your clay through with the crank and you have a nice, smooth, even sheet. Or you can use an acrylic roller, roll the sheet out, or use your hands. These are really our only tools. This, and then, a couple of things like a skewer for poking holes, that sort of thing. So we magically put the layers together like you were describing, that Kevin was so interested in, and we're going to show on the video also. And then once we get to that point, we don't have a little tiny, like this little rivet right here. It's not a little tiny thing. It's actually big. It's this big. And the design goes all the way down through it. And then so you flip it on its side and you fit your fingers into the little crevices and you start to pull. This is called a cane, and the design runs all the way through the cane. So you pull on it like this, you work it out, and it stretches, and everything on the inside stretches the same as everything on the outside. And after you pull it like this, of course it's going to get smaller in diameter. And when the diameter is the size of the button you want to make, then you stop pulling and you use a blade and you slice it, and every slice is a button. So then you flip the slices out on pieces of watercolor paper and bake them in toaster ovens. So that's our other handy dandy high-tech piece of equipment. And some of our button makers, they actually have more than one toaster oven going at the same time. And so we bake them, and it's just for a few minutes, just 10 minutes, just at just over 200 degrees, and it becomes a permanent plastic at that point. And then you have a button, except it's missing the holes.
Yep.
So then all the buttons get dumped into a plastic bag, and they go home with Darla. And Darla is our master driller, and she uses a Dremel tool and goes zip, 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 zip. She goes through lots of little drill bits, little tiny drill bits, and then she counts them, and she's also our quality control person, and she sends them back to the office.
And then in the office, they're like in little buckets, like the frog and the little bee, and yeah, they're like just like little buckets. So then when they need to fill an order, they can just, yeah.
So we have a question on Facebook from Doug Lico.
I love Doug.
He is asking, what's your favorite pin you have created? And while you guys answer that, I'm going to run and get my list of questions.
Okay. A favorite pin that we've created? Well,
I like the heart.
the heart,
Yeah, that's my favorite. Is
the one with the
heart.
swirls in it. The fun thing about making the pins is every time you make a cane, like the rivet, I was just talking about making a slice. If I pulled the cane a little further out till it was even smaller in diameter, and I cut thicker slices, then actually I'm making the top for a pin too. So then I just, instead of drilling 2 holes in the front, I drill 1 hole underneath it, and we glue the pin in there. So every time you can make, in theory, you can make any button into a pin just by making it smaller and cutting it a little bit thicker.
So what's your favorite like design?
My favorite design, okay, if I can say that favorite is because it seems almost magical when I cut it and it looks exactly like I wanted it to. Nothing ever looks exactly like you think it's going to, because no matter how carefully I build the big shape, when I turn it on its side and reduce the size of it, it does change. It distorts. And on the ends, we always end up throwing a big part of it away because that's the part you held on to. But in the middle, when you cut into it and you kind of open it and peek at it for the first time, the very first time that I made a seahorse, I actually had to post about that because it was a magical moment. So that's my favorite. The one that I made that when I cut into it looked just like what I thought it should.
I think my favorite is, at least pins for right now, is the pink strawberry pin. I just really love that strawberry.
Yeah.
And that was the one that was in the Fat Quarter Shop pin set
Yeah.
with the So Sampler box.
And that probably has something to do with the fact that you picked the color for that.
Well, I think Kimberly actually suggested that we make a pink strawberry because we have a red strawberry at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
But Rachel's big on saying, no, not that pink, more like this pink. So, but
I am a color person.
that's right. That's right. So we didn't talk about the hand-dyed buttons. Do you want to go back to that question?
Oh,
then?
sure. So our buttons are dyed in pots. So I will fill a pot on a burner. I'll fill it with water and heat the water. And we mix our own powdered dyes using recipes that we develop. I mean, some of them are 20 years old and some of them are brand new.
And they're all on recipe cards too.
Right, they're all on recipe cards in theory. Sometimes more information gets stored in your head than you really should. And so I mix up the dye in powder and I add it to hot water, and I will strain it through a coffee filter to make sure that there aren't any particles floating in it. Like some of our dyes are salt based, so I try to get out the extra salt because the salt can actually leave spots on the buttons. And then I put the buttons into a metal strainer, so it's kind of like a steamer basket. If you ever use a steamer basket inside your pots to steam vegetables, it's got little holes drilled in it. So I put the buttons in a strainer and I dip the buttons down into the pot that has the dye, and I stir them around. Sometimes if it's a really light color, it will go really fast, so I have to be careful not to leave it in for too long. You stir them around so that they get evenly coated in the dye. If you just drop them in and let them sit, they're going to get spots all over them from the way that they were sitting. And I pull them up, and the fun thing about dyeing buttons is that when you see the color that you want, that's when they're done, as opposed to fabric where, you know, you see a darker color and then you rinse the fabric out, and, you know, the color that you really wanted is not the
Washes
color
down the drain.
you got. So the buttons, as soon as I pull them out, I can see that's the color they're going to be, and so it's really simple for me to tell when I've got the perfect color. And I pull them out of the water, and I rinse them in cold water to kind of settle things so they don't keep absorbing dye, and so that I can rinse the excess dye off. And then sometimes I'll wash them depending on the kind of button that they are. If they're like a matte finish, they can sometimes have like a greasy residue on them, and so that will leave spots as they dry. So I'll wash them off with just like a degreasing soap. And we lay them out on baker's racks with towels on them to dry. And I have a baker's rack that I have a fan on top of.
Yeah.
So the fan blows down and dries my buttons, and yeah.
Then they're ready to count and package.
Right. So I can do, if I'm doing a really small button, I can do a lot at once. If I'm doing a really big button, then, you know, I can only do like a couple hundred at once. So it really depends on the kind of button.
All right. So how did Just Another Button Company get started?
Oh, wow. A very long time ago. When I was
It's a good story.
It's a good story. Okay, how far back do I go? When I was a kid, I did crafts, and I've always made things. And if you make too many things, you end up selling them. Now you can sell them on eBay. At that time, you couldn't do that. But I just enjoyed doing crafts, and I did crafts with my kids. One time at a children's bookstore, I found a book on making fun kid things out of polymer clay, and we made little monsters and pencil eraser toppers and refrigerator
lizards.
magnets and lizards, and I'm sure you made dollhouse food and all kinds of things. So Rachel was probably 6 or 7 at that point, and the boys, they enjoyed it too, Daniel and Jonathan, and we'd all sit around the little table and make fun little things. Well, we used up all the clay that came with the book in one day, so of course then we had to go out and buy more clay. And pretty soon I had the idea, there was one chapter in the book on making buttons, which that was my first experience with building a cane, and I loved the 3-dimensional idea. That just really appealed to me. So I made a very complicated one with a teapot in it, and it was only marginally successful. The design didn't go all the way through, but the colors were kind of messy, and I wanted a different brand of clay because this was just a little bit smeary. So before long, I was making ladybugs and bees and embellishing my silk ribbon embroidery and some clothing, because at that time wearable art was the big thing. And pretty soon I had way too many buttons, and took some to a consignment shop. There was actually a button store nearby. I mean, how often does that happen? But the buttons were there on consignment, and a cross-stitch designer bought a bee button. And she called and she said, I love this. I want to put it on my cross-stitch design, and I just want to know, can you make enough of them to sell to shops? And I said, you mean sell wholesale? And she said, yes. And I said, well, possibly. I could see the point of doing that, but I asked her, how many charts do you sell? And she said 10,000.
Oh.
And I panicked for a moment, but here we are.
Yeah.
We sell wholesale to the quilt industry and the cross stitch industry, and we really got big into the quilt industry when Art to Heart, Nancy Halverson, started putting buttons on her quilts, and we have a whole line of her licensed designs now. So it just keeps going.
Mm-hmm. And then tell us how the hand-dyed buttons became part of your business.
Oh, well, the hand-dyed buttons, they were previously under Hill Creek Designs. That was the business name. And it was owned by Teresa, who is actually a person that Mom became friends with in the industry, because our products go so well together, the handmade and the hand-dyed, that the two companies would actually want to be next to each other at a trade show, especially because Nancy Halverson at Art to Heart, she would use both kinds of buttons on her quilts. And they became friends, and we would go and exhibit together sometimes at shows, and we always admired their buttons, and we actually used them on some projects that we designed. And Teresa passed away, it's just over 2 years now, 2.5 years, which was very sad. But her family decided that they did not want to continue her business. And we just couldn't imagine a world where that hand-dyed button line didn't exist. So we're continuing her dream of, the hand-dyed buttons by making it part of just another button company. And so we bought the business, and the person who had been dyeing the buttons for Teresa, Janice, she actually taught me how to dye. So I was
and I got to meet her when I came.
Yes, I got to go to California a couple of times where their headquarters were, and then we would dye things together. And she gave me all of her old recipes so that we would be able to continue dyeing the colors that people were used to getting from Hill Creek Designs. And I mean, we've put a little bit of a twist on it since then, bringing in our own colors, but it's the same quality buttons that people were able to get from Hill Creek before, just from another button company. So now we're both kinds of buttons under one roof.
Right. And we feel very grateful that Janice still answers our texts if a recipe doesn't work right. And she went to Quilt Market with us because we wanted people to know that Hill Creek is not gone. Right. It's under a different name, but it's the same product. And Janice is willing to make sure that they still get what they're looking for.
Right. It's
when they want those hand-dyed buttons.
Same love.
Right. Right.
Awesome. We have a question from YouTube. Do you do custom-made buttons?
Well, that depends on who's asking, and I don't mean that to sound egotistical or in any way, but when we make buttons, when we pull that cane out and slice, we get a lot of buttons.
Yeah.
So we can't make one or two or three buttons.
Yeah. Right.
We do sometimes take a custom request, especially for a very good customer. There's a cross-stitch shop that was celebrating their 10-year anniversary, and they wanted a bird of paradise flower in a little lapel pin. So if we would make the slices, then, well, that's a tough commission to take because it takes time out of filling the daily orders. But every once in a while, we make room in the schedule to do something special like that.
Perfect. And why should people buy from just another button company versus just any old other buttons?
Well, we like it when they buy from us. Yeah, Kimberly has a good take on that.
I'm gonna answer because I sell their buttons. But like the clay buttons, they're so unique. I mean, even if you buy one of these, the one next to it is not exactly the same. So sometimes, my customers will say, why should I make a quilt that somebody else made that's the exact same thing? This is the same thing. It's handmade. It's made in America. It's
Sorry, no one can see
So
it.
it's like, and here's like the frog. I mean, there's so much detail. These take hours to make, and not one person makes them. One person rolls them out. One person cuts them. One person puts them in the oven. One person puts holes in them. I mean, it's a whole, like, you're employing people in America.
Right.
And the hand-dyed, the colors they have are amazing. Just really good colors. The buttons have such good variety and like texture, and it's just not like something you would find at a chain store. It's just not. I mean, it's just a high quality. It's made in America. It's family-owned business. So that's why you should buy them. And you should buy them at Factory Shop.
That's right.
All right. What is your favorite clay button?
Oh, we already did that, didn't we?
Did we go through that?
Oh, I talked about my favorite one is the last one that turned out really well. Rachel, did you say what your favorite clay one is?
Well, I said my favorite pin is the strawberry. I think my favorite button, oh gosh.
You really like those
It's the
new Christmas.
I think it's the peppermint
right.
swirl.
Oh yeah, that's cute.
The
And I
peppermint
like
swirls
the
are awesome.
and like from the hand dyed, I really like the party packs.
Mm-hmm.
So even when we were filming, I like brought my stash from home, which is absolutely ridiculous because they have like a million more buttons. But I'm like, oh, I can show my buttons.
When we go to a show, we'll have the hand dyed buttons. We'll always have a container.
Oh yes.
And if people stand there and talk
touch
to
it.
us and they have their hand down in the
Pet the
container, I don't think
buttons,
they
yeah.
even realize that they're
Doing it,
but,
yeah. And then they
form
have
of
like a little
therapy.
tray, like a little tray, and you can like pull the drawers out and look at everyone. Like, yeah.
Alright, so we got lots of fans in Italy, guys. Lots of shout outs from Italy.
Awesome.
Tell us about the snack packs.
Oh, snack packs. Well, snack pack is a snack-sized pack of buttons. They have 2 styles inside, and we actually did a short you on this. So excuse me, you should be able to see it soon. But they're both a slightly glossy finish, the 2 styles, and there's 4 of each in a package.
And 2 colors.
And two shades, that's right. So each package has 2 shades. So if you're trying to match a green to a fabric, you know you're going to get the right green for your fabric, which I love.
Right.
And
And
we have them in 35
Colors.
all from the Fat Quarter Shop.
Right.
And so like you're always going to find the perfect button for your project.
And they're slightly translucent too, so that when you lay these buttons down on your fabric, some of the fabric color actually comes through the button. You don't see it, but it actually tints the button, which means the button is that much more likely to be the perfect button for your fabric.
And they're a really good size. I mean, I don't even know what size they are, but they're just a really good size to work with a lot of things like purses, like garments, that kind of thing, bags, quilts, everything. It's just a really good size, I would say.
Right, and I love that button, or those buttons too, because they're the perfect kind of buttons for sewing on by machine, because they are
Big enough.
big enough, the holes are nice and round, and
And they are
open.
garment quality, like you said. Yes, they're
Right.
very sturdy, and they can be machine washed.
Yeah, and then they also have these little sprinkle buttons, which are tiny, and we're going to be doing something pretty soon with them. I'm actually going to start this weekend at a dance convention that I'm going to be at. So if any of y'all are at a dance convention, y'all can take a peek at what I'm doing. Sneak peeks.
Alright, we've got some people that are just tuning in.
Okay.
So can you tell them who you are and what we're discussing today?
So we have just another button company with us. Rachel is the daughter and Cecile is the mother, and we're just talking about their company, about buttons, and you can ask us any questions about buttons you have.
Perfect. Alright, and that was Smitten Kitten actually that was.
Oh, hi! You comment on everything. We love you.
Alright, so you guys run a company together, mother-daughter duo.
Yes.
What's it like working together?
We get along very well.
yeah, I would say that we're best friends,
Uh-huh.
and so
And we both understand what the other person does,
Right.
but we're very comfortable with. Rachel definitely leads the hand dye department, and I definitely lead the clay button department, but we contribute information to both of them, and I do the bookkeeping, and Rachel knows why it's important and
Right.
is perfectly happy to let me do it.
right, and
Yeah.
I would say a little bit more of a dreamer. So I think we balance each other out. I encourage her to dream a little bit more, and she encourages me to be a little bit more mindful of the business side of things.
Right.
And so I feel like we learn from each other on a
Right.
daily basis.
And I tend to get immersed in the books, and she spends time watching trends. She's a big fan of the Fat Quarter Shop. And she says, oh, you should see what they've got coming out, or you
Right.
should see what fabrics they're saying coming soon.
I do some sewing
Right.
for myself personally, so
And your kids.
and my kids, yes. So I try to stay in tune with what's going on in the industry. And
Right.
so we kind of share information back and forth about that. But I feel like what makes it work between the two of us is that our number one goal is to enjoy what we're doing, make a living enjoying what we do. And we're both working toward having a successful business And so that means, doing what's best for the business.
Right.
And we don't really have a lot of ego, so it's
Right.
easy to work with someone when you care about what happens to them, and
Right.
you're working toward the same goal.
Both of us go at a daily task with, I want to make her look good and she wants to make me look good. And
Right.
we always have the same goal that way.
Yeah.
And we love our employees because they
Yes.
support us in all of that.
Right. When people ask us sometimes, how do you guys do this? And we make sure to point out that we don't do this.
No.
It takes the
all
whole
of us.
village, right?
Yeah.
And I would love to name them all, but I would feel like that person standing on the stage at the Oscars who leaves out
That one
the
person.
most important thing, that, oh, I left somebody out. So,
Yeah.
but we appreciate each and every one of you. And we haven't talked at all about the people in our office, but not only do we make all these buttons by hand, and you're right about somebody mixes the clay and
Yeah,
somebody does
cuts
the holes.
when I
The
walked in,
floss?
somebody was like cutting the floss off these huge cones, and I was like, oh, I've never seen a cone like that. I mean, there's like somebody doing every little thing.
They are custom packaged. Dawn has worked for us for probably more than 15 years, I think. She is very quiet, very meticulous. She doesn't care to answer the phone, but she makes almost no mistakes on filling people's orders. And she'll put one little button in a bag,
Yeah.
or she'll count out 10,000 of them, and she puts together the packs or supervises. Now she has people that help her put together the packs so that you get the buttons that go on a certain pattern.
Right. And she works in the room with all of our handmade buttons, the stock, and so they're on shelves. She has, I think, 3 shelves that line 3 walls of the room.
It's super
And
organized.
Each shelf has these little dividers, so the cubbies are only like 2 by 2
Right.
inches. And so we have, what is there, like 2,000, 3,000 styles of buttons in that one room, and she knows where every button is.
And she also isn't it like, I think when I was there, y'all said that when one gets low, she lets you know that, oh, we need to make
Oh,
more
yeah.
of these
Yeah.
buttons. So.
She has a giant whiteboard, the biggest whiteboard
Oh,
that
that's
you can
right.
buy.
Yeah, that's
I mean, it literally,
Yeah.
to get up to the top of it, we have to stand on a step stool. So all of the makers, their names are across the whiteboard. And above your name is all of the pin tops that you need to make, and below your name is all the buttons that you need to make. And everybody's got their little section except me, and mine is double column because I'm always the one who has the most things that aren't done yet.
Yeah, because she's too busy
Yeah.
doing the bookkeeping.
Yeah, but so it's kind of a weird system, but it works for us.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we've got another question from YouTube. How do the buttons hold up under heat from an iron?
Oh, well, they don't. At least
Yeah.
the polymer clay ones don't.
Well.
You don't want to set an iron on the polymer clay buttons. I'm not sure
The
that.
surface gets shiny, it actually
Yeah.
melts. It would be like if you had a plastic water bottle and you put it on your ironing board and put your iron down on top of it, you can picture what would happen to it. Same sort of thing. And it's the same with the dyed buttons because they're made from polyester.
Yeah.
So that is really our only warning. Well,
They can be washed
Right.
and they can be dried in the dryer, but we just don't
Right.
we don't touch them with an iron.
right. If you
Yeah, they're more of like an accent piece that you add on the end, but I will say they're sturdy. I mean, they're not bending. I mean,
the,
you know
the
what I
clay
mean?
is
Like-
actually a little bit flexible, so
yeah, but it's not like,
brittle
yeah, it's
at
not gonna
all.
like, yeah. So, yeah.
Right. And you can, if you drop it on the floor, it won't break.
Yeah, it won't
If
break.
you step on it, it won't break.
Yeah.
Now, we did drive over one the other day accidentally. We were on the way to a show, and we got a photograph from the office saying, you left something here. And it was a pin cushion that had 3 pins in it, but only one of the pins broke. We
Yeah.
drove over it, and only one pin broke. So that's pretty good testimonial,
Yeah,
don't you
and
think?
you've driven over buttons with your car before.
Sure.
And found them and
Yeah.
they were not broken. So
And Darla came in a couple of times with, she has these little carry baskets. So after she drills them, she brings in these bags. And Dawn has a book where she keeps track of, Darla, what happened to these? And Darla said, I know I brought them. Well, they were found a day or two later in the curb, beside the curb, outside the building.
So they've probably been driven over lots of times.
Yeah, they were fine.
Yeah.
They were fine.
All right, we've got a question from Glinda on YouTube. When will the fresh eggs pins be available?
Okay, we were just talking about that yesterday and how all the people in the cross stitch world like the chickens. And then we talked about anyway, yeah.
So the
I don't
reason that
answer.
they're not ready is because we were getting ready to come here. So we had Nashville, the Needlework Show in Nashville, where we debuted them. And then we had about a week and a half to get ready to come here. So we did as much as we could in that week and a half. But it's first thing on the agenda when we get back.
Right, but
So-
Darla's son is getting married this week too, so she's taking a week off, which almost never happens, and she deserves it. So please be patient with us.
Yeah, we
We've
promise they're
made
coming very
over
soon.
400 of them already.
Oops. Sorry, I didn't turn my phone off.
We just didn't expect that people were going to want that many chickens.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sorry
They're
that you're
cute.
having to wait, but I hope you think they're worth the wait.
Yeah, they're
coming
cute.
soon.
They're definitely trendy.
All right, and we've got several people on YouTube asking if we're going to be doing a tour of your shop or your facility.
Oh, well,
You're welcome
we
to.
could do it. Like maybe next year, me and Lily can fly down there and do it.
That'd be fun.
I wish
So
you would.
Lily
yes.
will put it on her calendar, and we will come, and I will do nothing but sit and look at buttons, and she will do all the work. But yeah, we can do that like next year.
All right. Let's see, you guys are doing a tour. Can you tell us what your favorite part of the job is? What you guys do?
Doing things like this.
Going to the cross stitch stores, the cross stitch festivals.
Oh.
What is it called?
And it's the Nashville Needlework Show.
She's taking me next year.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go. So
Because I've been doing this for so long, it's sort of evolved that my friends are mainly the people that I meet in the industries. And I love going to the shows because how often do I get to see you?
yeah.
Once a year, and then we have to cram a whole year of catching up. So this has been great because we've been here for a couple days now and got to ask and answer more questions and get a little feel for where you live and how you work. And that's the best part of being involved in an industry like this.
Right. And collaborating on projects
Oh, right.
with other businesses is really fun.
But that's even easier when you actually know the person.
right, when you get
yeah.
to know the
Right.
people.
And I love seeing the moment of like, Kimberly had a brainstorm yesterday, and I loved watching her face when she was telling us about it. So.
Yeah, so then we went to dinner last night. I went to a chain store, bought all this thread, came to work. Somebody downstairs, Sarah, she's working on this. I don't want to say what project it is, but she's like drawing it up. She's going to bring it upstairs. We're going to like do some stuff, and yeah, it's going to be good.
We're excited, definitely.
All right. We've got lots of people very excited about seeing you guys in Nashville. Someone's even offering to just carry your stuff for you. And other people are just tuning in, so they're asking if you have a favorite button that you make. So if you can just tell us once again what it
So,
was.
recap, my favorite is the peppermint swirl, and yours is the seahorse.
Or the most recent thing that I was successful at. I know that's kind of repeating things, but after a while things can get a little bit routine. Like if you we make nativity people. I don't know if you know that or not, but we have the three wise men, and we have the baby in the manger, and that's the baby in the manger is the one that we have the tutorial on, or the video of how it's made on our website. So I'm sorry, I got distracted because I just spotted Starbucks over there. Do you see my light flash on?
We can bring it.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm worried. After a while, when you make so many sets of things, I think probably for a set of buttons, the nativity buttons are the ones that we have made the most of, and they're like, I don't know. I don't want to say the interest never dies because that sounds kind of negative, but it's just a permanent part of our repertoire. And every once in a while, I make one of those, like a wise man, and you make that first slice, and you open it up, and you think, wow. Or Mary especially, because Mary, I like for her face to look like she's in repose. like she's peaceful, and her head's bent over a little bit, but there's really only maybe 4 colors or 5 colors involved there in a very simple shape, and to be able to get an attitude to come across in that simplicity it's tricky. Part of it's luck, part of it's practice, but when I cut into that Mary Kate and I look at it and it's just, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, which I know that sounds silly, but.
And I like the hearts. Like, I like all the little hearts they do.
Yeah, we have
a lot of hearts.
I bet we have 25 or 30 different hearts, and most of them come in 4 sizes. And
and there's like red, white, pink, lots of cute little
there's
colors.
ones with checkerboards, there's ones with polka dots, there's ones with swirls, and right. Yep.
Right. We have a question from Lisa on YouTube. She's asking when the Nashville Needlework Show is.
So it was like last month. It's for cross-stitch store owners.
Right.
But if you want to see like kind of the stuff that was done there, there's like a ton of photos and videos on Facebook.
Right.
Just search Nashville Needlework Market.
Right. They have their own Facebook page, and they put photos up there that they want retail customers to see, even though they can't shop at the show.
Yeah.
But right now is when all of the shops that were there
Or like all their stuff is shipping.
their stuff is shipping. They have it all in their stores. It's all unpacked and priced. So go to your local store or search to see, what event are they having, and what do they still have, because they can reorder all that stuff.
All right, Smiddenkin's asking if you have limited edition buttons.
Oh, that's a good question.
We do have limited edition buttons, and they come out in a certain format, like you probably private branding, that that's a concept that most people understand. Designers will call us and say, I'm doing an exclusive kit, and I need I can't think of, I need a beach ball, and I want a purple beach ball. Well, we wouldn't really consider adding that to our general lineup, because how often is a purple beach ball going to fit in with a project? But we will make that limited edition, and then we send them the entire batch. They have to buy the whole cane, whatever it makes, they have to buy that. And then they put that in their kits. And if somebody says, my dog ate my beach ball, then they have to contact the designer then to get the second one. But our favorite way of doing limited edition things right now is through our clubs.
Right.
Like
So the Holiday Button Lovers Club that has a few limited edition hand-dyed colors and handmade buttons in there.
And the Pin Mini Club that we're getting ready to start. There'll be
so
limited edition pins in that too.
so look for a video on that soon.
Perfect. All right, so do you guys quilt as well? Do you sew? Do you cross stitch? Do you do all of it?
Yeah.
Well,
We do.
at times we have done a little bit of everything.
Yes. Yes.
I do some quilting. For instance, I just made a quilt for my son's nursery. I'm getting ready to have a boy, so I made is okay to say the pattern titled the Violet Craft Jungle Abstractions Lion Quilt.
And before she told me that, she said, "Oh, I like to make easy stuff," and I was like, "That's not easy."
And, that's what I said too.
Well, I love foundation paper piecing. I just think it is so awesome, such an amazing concept, and I think it's easier than traditional piecing. So,
Which I don't think.
Well, tell them about the fat quarter kit that you bought too.
And then the last quilt that I made was for my daughter, and it was the Land of Magic quilt, which I only did because you guys came out with a kit for it. So that was my first foundation paper piecing project, and that's where I fell in love with it. But
I do a lot of my Christmas shopping on your website because I can make her happy. The Aurifil, the red collection, I think that's what she got last year. And that was really fun when she opened that, because her 2-year-old left her doll, her brand new doll, sitting under the Christmas tree and came over to cut with the threads.
With the threads,
Right.
And I've done a little sewing, like I have a few wallets that I have made for myself and friends. I enjoy that kind of thing. And a little bit of embroidery, a little bit of cross stitch.
Right. Right.
all of which
You've done some beautiful cross stitch. When I was at your store, like there was this huge thing, and I was like,
Right.
"Oh, that's amazing!" So like she's not even giving herself credit. It's like this huge cross
Well,
stitch. She's like, "Oh yeah, I made that."
I didn't stitch it though. Actually, it was a design that Mom and I designed with our friend Kathy from Hands On Design. It's called Chalk Squared, and it was a collaboration design, and it's gigantic. So there's no
It
way I
is.
could have stitched it all by myself. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's kind of what I do. You should talk about what you've done.
Well, started out crafting, and I have done some quilts, not the paper piecing ones that Rachel does. I did more traditional things. I got distracted by the polymer clay, so it's been
And
a while
you do a lot of
since.
pin cushions. There's a lot of pin cushions in your store.
Right. I
true.
do. I designed the pin cushions, and Rachel learned how to hand sew in order to make the pin cushions. We do a lot of things with felted wool, and I've done silk ribbon embroidery. I've done some hand embroidery. My mom did all of those things. I learned how to sew from her, and actually in high school, I made most of my own clothes. Now, at that time, you did it because it was the thrifty thing to do, and now you do it because it's the fun thing to do.
Right. Like
Yeah.
we just took a trip to Disney World, and you guys released some really cool Camelot fabrics.
Yeah.
Right before our trip, and there were some Mickey Mouse prints, and I just got this crazy idea. I'm gonna make dresses for my girls to wear to Disney World. So they had a different dress for every day of our Disney vacation.
Matching
There were
dresses.
princesses and Mickey Mouse.
Oh,
and
they were adorable.
So cute.
It
Yes.
was a lot of
Uh-huh.
fun. So
Yep.
it's kind of like whatever I'm feeling in that moment. I weigh the is
Pros.
it worth it to try to learn how to do this in order to
Right.
accomplish this project I'm interested in? And
Right.
most of the time the answer is yes.
She doesn't.
Sometimes-
She doesn't learn how to do something. She just dives in and does
Right.
it.
Because for me, it's not about like learning a process in order to get to the point where you do the project you want. I find the project I want to do, and then I learn how to do the thing because I want that project.
But right, like you wanted to do paper piecing, and it wasn't making sense to you when you bought the pattern, but you went to YouTube and
Yep.
Right.
and
just figure it out.
just figured it out.
Right.
And then made a quilt. I mean,
Yeah,
she
a
didn't
lot
do
of
something
that
small. She
gigantic
made a quilt.
quilt.
Right.
A lot of that's just because
Right.
I don't have the patience to
Right.
really put in the, the
But-
effort to build up my skills.
Right. You're a small business owner, though, so you understand how if something needs to be done,
You just do it.
you just
Yeah,
do
you
it.
figure it out.
Exactly. Isn't that not what I say all the time? You just do it.
Yeah.
There's nobody else you can say, hey, do this for me. You just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, and sometimes like just like talking about doing it, you could have already done it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Or
so
by-
sometimes like
yeah.
even with my kids, my daughter or my sons will say stuff. I'm like, just do it. Like I don't want to hear excuse. Just do it. Like do it. I don't want to hear anything else. Do it. Let me know when it's done.
Someone is asking what the name of your website is.
Oh, that's an easy one.
Yeah, it's just anotherbuttoncompany.com.
Right.
It's all spelled out.
Super simple. All right. So this is a question for Rachel. Did you always want to make buttons or work with your mom?
Oh gosh, no. No. I didn't want anything to do with anything that she did when I was little. Like, I was totally disinterested. I did dance and I did singing, and I went to college to study vocal performance. And while I was there, I joined a sorority. And my sorority sisters liked to craft, to make things for each other, basically. And I had always been kind of interested in decorating, so that really kind of caught my interest. And I developed a stash, you could say, of craft supplies, and then people started coming to my room to borrow craft supplies because I had a really big stash. And I realized that I was spending more time crafting than I was like pursuing music anymore. So I thought, well, my priorities are kind of out of whack here because this is really what I want to do and not so much the music. So maybe I need to re-examine what I'm doing. So at that point, I decided to take a break from studying music, and that's when I went back home and I got a part-time job working for the button company. And Mom, I think, was like secretly thrilled, but trying not to show it too much. And I got kind of intrigued by what I saw going on in the office, and I think that was right before we started coming out with the pincushion kits. And the first couple of pincushions that she designed and started kitting, they really caught my interest, and the pins especially to go with the pincushions really inspired me. And so I learned how to hand sew in order to not only make pincushion models but also to design pincushions, and that was really where I got hooked.
Right.
So from there it's been like,
So within a matter of months, she designed her first pattern.
right.
She just learned how to sew. She never drafted a pattern, but
Right.
and
I'm sure I
Yeah.
picked up things from growing up in a creative household. So I had a kind of an eye for it, without really having ever used it much, except in like basic craft kind of projects. So then when I was ready to be involved with it, I had, a little bit to go on. And then of course I'm working with, the best teacher for that. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly learning
Yeah.
things. And
she'll do anything except make polymer clay buttons.
well, I think that it's hard. We never really have time for me to actually sit down and do
Right.
that, because I'm always,
Right.
picking up things from other areas of the business to.
I bet you
What's
though,
going
if
on?
I put the clay for that ladybug down in front of you, you wouldn't even have to ask me how to do it.
Oh,
Even though
yeah,
you've
probably
never
not.
made one, I bet you would just look at it and say, okay, I know what I need to do.
Yeah. I don't know, but for now I'm happy to stick with the hand-dyed buttons.
All right. Glinda is asking if we have any plans of collaboration with that quarter shop and just another button company.
We do. So I can't like give details because I don't want anybody to like copy it. But yeah, we're working on something.
All right. And Spin Kitten is asking if you still do crafts.
I do if there's a project that I want for like myself.
Or your kids.
Or in for example, I went to QuiltCon last year, and before I left, I had just dyed these mint buttons, and I thought, oh my gosh, I just really need a necklace out of these mint buttons because this color is my absolute favorite. So I went to a chain store and bought some jewelry findings and whipped up a necklace for myself, and I did it because I really had to have that necklace.
Right. And that and birthday parties.
Oh, and birthday parties.
Yeah.
I like to craft for my kids' parties. I throw them like really elaborately decorated parties, still small number of people, but I like to make birthdays magical at my house, so.
All right. CJ is asking, do you make Shank buttons?
Nope.
No, we don't.
No?
No, that's we drill the holes in the buttons. We like our buttons to be flat.
Yeah.
So they sit because they're not functional buttons. They don't go through buttonholes, and that's the purpose of a shank, so that it can go through a buttonhole. So that's just not something that fits with what we do.
Right.
All right. Let me see here. I have a note, I think, to mention Joanne Hawley, Lazy Girl.
Joan Hawley.
Joan Hawley, right.
Oh, yeah.
There was a question earlier about the snack packs of buttons, the garment quality buttons that come just 8 in a package, just enough to do a project or two. We had just purchased Hill Creek Designs, the hand-dyed button company, and Rachel was learning to dye, or had already learned to dye probably by that point.
I think we had started the Button Lovers Club,
Okay.
I think.
We had just finished moving 5,000 pounds of product from California to Illinois, but we weren't really sure what we were going to do with it. Rachel had started the Button Lovers Club while it was still out in California as a way to get people to associate the buttons with us. But we didn't know what we were going to do next, or in general, we were just sort of fishing.
Right.
Because the whole thing happened very unexpectedly.
Right. But we had sent a Button Lovers Club box, I think, to Joan.
Oh, that's right. So Joan Hawley is a designer in the quilt market. She designs purses, bags.
And her company's Lazy Girl Design.
Oh, yes, Lazy Girl Design.
She also has a whole line of interfacings.
Oh,
and
yes,
fusibles
brand new,
and-
yeah. And
Right.
it's really good.
Right. She's a very smart woman, very business savvy, and she's a friend, known her for a long time, but she hasn't used buttons. She's just a friend. And she called one day while Rachel and I were both there, and she said, I have a new pattern coming out. And I've just been to one of the chain stores. In fact, I've been to all the chain stores. And what I really wanted was, I wanted a rainbow of buttons, all the same size and same shape, so that I'm going to make a lot of these. And I want to be able to pull whatever color of button I want out of this lineup I have in front of me. And she said it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and then the quilt shops, I mean, if she puts that on her pattern, the quilt shops want to know where to get it.
That's exactly right. That's
But
exactly
she
right.
had fallen in love with two of the styles that were in the Button Lovers Club. And so she asked us, can you create a pack that has those two styles in it? Because it'd be perfect for my button boat project pattern that she was getting ready to come out with.
Right.
So that's where the snack pack was created, because those two styles that are in that snack pack were the two styles she wanted to use on button boats.
Right.
Yeah.
So one snack pack makes two button boats. And
Yeah.
that's been an incredibly successful pattern for her. And we are just delighted that
Right.
the buttons are right there.
Yeah, and we have a cute little video to show you how to make it. So
That's right.
Yeah.
it's super easy. It looks, I will say it looks it's a lot easier than I thought, because I sometimes don't want to step outside of making quilts. And when you showed it yesterday, I was kind of like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah, it's very simple. And there's a couple of coordinating patterns too that I think you have, like the prezzies. It's like a little gift envelope made in the same way with the zigzag stitching along the edges. And it's all made with the stiff stuff interfacing between the two layers of fabric. I just love those projects. They're so much fun to make, and they're quick projects, which is
Right.
a great thing.
Right, because you made a whole stack of them and gifted them.
Yeah, for Valentine's Day last year, I made like 10 or 12 of the little present envelopes, and I
Right.
put little cookies inside
Right.
for all the people at the office and all
Right.
my friends.
And it's also a good way to use, like, a whole new line of fabric comes out and you think, I have to have that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Well,
Oh yeah, and it works perfectly with layer cakes.
right, right. So you can buy the layer cake and make gifts for all your friends.
All right. How many buttons do you think you've made so far? Any
Oh,
guesses?
Wow.
She probably doesn't want to know.
Made?
Well,
Oh my goodness.
you can estimate how many Darla drills in a week, so
That's
Well,
a lot.
yeah.
I've been there. It's a lot. I was amazed. Like,
It's
really,
in the millions.
Yeah, it's definitely
It's in the
I would
millions.
say
Yeah.
it's probably closer to billion at this point.
Oh, I don't know. It could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
It's a lot. Like, when I walked in the room, I was like, holy cannoli. Like, I had no idea. And I was like, first of all, I was like in heaven. But then I was like, oh my gosh. Like, then I started thinking, because I mean, I own a business. I was like, who did all this? Like, this is like crazy how many buttons are
Yeah,
here.
it is. It's really nuts.
It's a lot.
When people ask me why do I do this, basically I say I think I might be crazy.
Yeah.
You have a number though for a record that Darla has drilled in a week, don't you?
She drilled, when we were getting ready for a market one time, she drilled 50,000 buttons in 1 week. Now it's more average between 8 and 10,000 in a week. And then the pin tops are on top of that. We started that in 2008, I think. So she drills those also.
holes, yeah.
But in our inventory, we have, I don't know, a wall of white buttons ready to be dyed. And we counted those for the first time this year because it was the first time year end. They were all at our business. And we had just over 2 million white buttons. And I know at any one time in our clay button room, there's about 800,000 in there, and it's never enough, and it's never the ones that we want. So
Right.
I won't say that we turn over every button every year, because you can't with that many different inventory items. I know on our website we have over 7,000 inventory items between the kits and the patterns and the buttons, but it's not, I would say we turn over at least half of it, so a bunch.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
All right, last question. People are asking about Button Lovers Club. They want to know more. And are there plans for Button Lovers Club 3?
Okay,
Ooh,
so
good
on
question.
our site, if you search button box, you're gonna see colored buttons like pink, bubblegum, green. Those, and they're like in little jars with the buttons coming out. The jars don't come with it, but that was Button Lover Club 1, which is now ended. Then we had Button Lovers Club 2, which are like colored, and it's a mix of...
It's like 2 colors of hand
Yeah.
dyed plus a themed assortment of our handmade buttons.
Yeah, so it's like clay and hand dyed, and those are online. That club has 3 or 4 more months to go, and if you wanted like the whole year, you could just email us and we could sign you up for all the past boxes also. And then there was the holiday club, which there's 4 boxes. We've shipped 3, and they're all holiday themed, like July 4th, Christmas, and then Button Lovers 3. We're gonna keep that a secret, and you can watch the video.
Actually, I think you've just shipped 2 of the holiday boxes, just so nobody emails you and says, where's my 3rd box?
Oh yeah, sorry.
All right. So I think it's a good place to wrap it up.
Well,
here.
did you talk about 3? Did I hear you?
Oh, she said
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
secret.
It's a
coming
secret.
soon.
Okay,
It's
very good.
coming soon.
Okay.
But you'll like it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be at a dance convention, and I might do like a little live stream just so you can see like a little bit of my personal life. It'll just be like super quick. It might be totally stupid. Lily won't be there, and so I am really bad with technology, so I might just totally mess it up. But I'll see y'all tomorrow, and then next Friday, we're going to do a little video on starching and how I starch. So that'll be next Friday. Not tomorrow, but the Friday, next Friday. So thanks for joining us.